Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining. So we'll start our class now. Radha Varashrangaji, can you please say the prayers?
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-Salakaya Bhaktaramalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Nitam Tam Sajivam Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Nitamsa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarivasya Kripa Sindhu Bhai Vachaha Praktitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Thank you. Let me share my screen here. Did anyone of you purchase this book, Bhakti Sundarbha, from Amazon? Or do you have anyone of you have a copy of it with you? Okay. So now we will continue our discussion into the next topic, which is Sangha Siddha Bhakti. So what was the previous topic name we discussed? Radha Mataji, what was the name of the previous topic?
We discussed Arup Siddha Bhakti.
Arup Siddha Bhakti. So now we'll go into Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Arup Siddha and Sangha Siddha both looks very, very similar. But now when we, dive into the description, detailed description, we will try to understand what's the difference between Arup and Sangha. Arup means allegation, Sangha means association. Right? That's the meaning of Sangha. Mataji, you can continue reading.
Okay. Sangha Siddha Bhakti, text 225. Arup Siddha Bhakti was shown. Now Sangha Siddha Bhakti will be shown. As an example is mixed Bhakti. Extraneous elements becoming Bhakti through the association of Swarupa Siddha Bhakti was shown already. For instance, in the section where Prabhupada speaks of Bhagavatan, Dharman, Bhagavata Dharma was defined as possessing detachment, friendliness, and compassion. The disciple should in the beginning learn detachment of the mind from all things of this world, while showing mercy to inferior, friendship to equals, and respect to superiors. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.23. There are three types of karma: Misra Bhakti, desire for material gains, desire for liberation, and desire for Bhakti. One who takes shelter of Narayan attains the goal without having to perform a great amount of sadhana for the four human goals. Though it is possible to attain the goals of material enjoyment and liberation by pure bhakti alone, because of various desires, people develop taste for those other goals. To attain those things, people practice mixed bhakti. Bhakti performed while having material desire is generally mixed with elements of karma. Karma Mishra Bhakti. The word karma means dharma. The qualities of dharma were mentioned in general by Yamadutas. Acts which are prescribed in the Vedas constitute dharma, and acts which are not prescribed by the Vedas are adharma. The Vedas are directly Narayan and are born from him. This we have heard from Yamaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.40. The Vedas deal with the three gunas, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha, Bhagavad Gita 2.45. Karma or dharma becomes accomplished by consciously following the Vedas, unlike bhakti that may be performed unknowingly. Karma is also defined in the Gita. Bhuto bhavo. Okay, I'll just continue. Actions directed through the devatas, which create desires of the living entities, are called karma. Visarga means giving up objects and offering them to the devatas. That is representative of all dharma. This creates desires, bhava, for the living beings, bhuta. This definition excludes bhakti. Dharma becomes excellent by association with bhakti. The Lord says, Dharma means something that produces bhakti. Real jnana is seeing Paramatma everywhere. Real vairagya is complete disinterest in the sense objects. Real Aishwarya is acquisition of the siddhis. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.19.27. Dharma is called bhakti by offering results to the Lord, Aropa Siddha Bhakti, and using it as an assistance to bhakti, Sangha Siddha Bhakti. But mixing such actions with bhakti, Shakama Bhakti, results. Oh dear Vidura, when Brahma said to Kardama, produce progeny, Kardama went to the bank of the Saraswati river and performed penances for 10,000 years. Then, through his austerities, using methods of worship with concentrated mind, Kardama with devotion worshipped the Supreme Lord, giver of the benediction to the surrendered. When he saw the Lord, he developed Niskama Bhakti, indicated by his tears. He had desires in his bhakti because of his respect for the other order of Brahma. Maitreya speaks the verses.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Okay, so, here, before discussing Sangha Siddha Bhakti, Jiva Goswami is first again kind of summarizing or kind of mentioning what he has previously discussed, which is Arup Siddha Bhakti. And from there, gradually, he's kind of transitioning into explaining what is Sangha Siddha Bhakti. I mean, it is still not finished. I mean, there are a few more verses to properly understand Sangha Siddha Bhakti. This is just an introduction. So in the first paragraph, he starts again by discussing what is Arup Siddha Bhakti. So here it says, extraneous elements becoming bhakti through the association of Swarup Siddha was shown already, means the one previously discussed, which is Arup Siddha. And again, he gives the example of Prabuddha. We already discussed this example, right? So how a disciple should practice detachment from mind, detachment and showing mercy to the inferior, friendship and equal to equals and respect to others. So these are all good behavior. So, however, because this good behavior is directed towards devotees, that becomes bhakti. That's just an example of Arup Siddha Bhakti. And then he went on to describe what are three types of karma. There are three types of karma mishra bhakti. So again, what is karma mishra? What is karma means? So karma again, based on the context, the definition of karma can keep on changing. So here Prajiva Goswami gives a couple of examples of what is the definition of karma by quoting some examples from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. But before that, let's understand how is karma mishra bhakti categorized or classified. So there are three types of karma mishra bhakti. Means basically means there is some desire, right? So that is what karma mishra means. Means bhakti mixed with something. Mixed with what? Because bhakti means already pure. So whenever you mix something, so the mixture is always means something which is different in quality, right? Then only you call mix. I mean, if it is not different, then what is the need of calling it mix? Mix itself implies that there are two different things and then now they are mixing together. So when you say Mishra and Bhakti, Bhakti is already pure. means, and bhakti is already transcendental. When you use word mishra, that means that you are mixing it with something which is other than bhakti. And what is that other than bhakti? That is karma. So based on the type of karma, we can classify them into desire for material gains, desire for liberation, and desire for bhakti. So the first one is clear, right? So desire for material gain means, the person wanted some material benefits, uh, like for example, wealth or, beauty or, whatever. And then desire for liberation. Person is seeking for liberation. Means there is some self-interest there. So that is why it is called as karma mishra bhakti. And desire for bhakti. So this may be a little bit surprising, right? I mean, if I am having desire for bhakti, how can you classify that it is having mixed bhakti? Isn't it confusing here a little bit? Anyone online like to, I mean, Jiva Goswami will further clarify what he means by that. But anyone online, try to give it a shot, trying to explain why desire for lib bhakti is also classified as karma mishra bhakti. No one like to try? Okay. So let's wait and see why is desire for bhakti is also categorized under karma mishra bhakti. So now having introduced the concept of karma mishra bhakti, we will try to understand it more. So here it explains that though it is possible to attain goals of material enjoyment and liberation by pure bhakti alone, because of various desires, people develop taste for other goals. So to attain those things, people practice mixed bhakti. Bhakti performed while having material desires is generally mixed with elements of karma. The word karma means dharma. Again, so this is one way of defining what is karma means. So what is it? So it is said here, karma means dharma. And what do you mean by karma means dharma? Because here, um, in the previous classes we try to define what is karma, right? And we give two definitions. One meaning of karma is any action, like any activity you perform, irrespective of whether it is pious or impious, doesn't matter. It's an action. You performed an action, and that action is called as karma. And the second definition, what we have given, is that karma means like a resultant thing, which one has to either enjoy or suffer. That is also karma. And now we find a third definition here. Karma means dharma. What do you mean karma means dharma here? So what it is what is okay, what it means here is that um, um, there is, I think I explained this before. There is there are different types of karma, and one type of karma is called as nitya naimittik karma. Nitya naimittik karma means those activities which everybody has to perform every day, irrespective of whether you are a sannyasi or whether you are a grihastha, whether you are a child, or doesn't matter. Everybody has to perform those activities. They are called as nitya naimittika karmas. For example, taking bath, brushing your teeth, you know, yeah, taking, accepting prasad, taking care of your body. These are all, uh, very common things which everybody has to do, irrespective of their social or spiritual status, right? That is called as nitya naimittik karmas. Another thing is called as kamya karmas. Kamya karmas means they are optional. Not everyone will have to perform. Kamya means, what is kamya means? Kama means desire. Karma means, those activities you perform to satisfy one's desire. And generally, kamya karmas in the Vedic context, it refers to uh, sacrifices, or performing some demigod worships, or following varnashram principles, because following varnashram principles also is tied to some economical benefit, right? If a Vaishya performs agriculture, he gets some economical benefit. Shudra also, when he performs his activity of serving the other varnas, he also gets some material benefit. So again, all those things are something which are having some material benefits. They are called as kamya karmas. And those kamya karmas are basically activities which are prescribed in the Vedas. They are not like some random activities. Of course, now nobody does kamya karmas the way it is mentioned in the Vedas. Now, if someone has a desire, as I mentioned previously, they go and get a job and earn money. That's how they do it. Simple, no complication. But back in the days, it is not so simple. People have a very deep faith in the Vedic scriptures and the sacrifices. So people perform all those things. So that is why it is said here, karma means dharma. So when it says karma means dharma, what is referred here is called what is being referred here is actually kamya karmas. At least in this context, because if you look at the next paragraph, it will become very clear. So the qualities of dharma were mentioned in general by Yamadutas. Acts which are prescribed in Vedas constitute dharma, and acts which are not prescribed by the Vedas are adharma. So the Vedas are directly Narayan and born from him, which have heard from Yamaraj. The Vedas deals with three gunas, Traigunya Vishaya Veda. So karma or dharma. So looks like karma or dharma. So basically, we are using these two words very equivalently. Means karma means dharma, dharma means karma. Because why? Because in this context, we are only referring to those acts which are prescribed in the Vedas. So those acts are actually dharma. I mean, when you perform those activities, that is karma. So that is why these two words are used interchangeably. And again, these things are material, three gunas, because even though it is coming from Vedas, but they are all coming from Karma Kanda section. Because Vedas also, Vedas have three sections. Does anyone know what are the three sections of Vedas? So Dharani Mataji, do you know what are the three sections of Vedas? And I'll give you a hint. The last word is
What?
called Kanda, like that.
One is Karma Kanda. I know that, but Vedanta is something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, so first is Karma Kanda, next is Jnana Kanda, third is Bhakti Kanda, or like that, Moksha Kanda. So
Okay.
Dharma, Jnana, no, Karma, Jnana, and Moksha. So those are the three ways we can classify the Vedas. Because Vedas means what? Vedas means knowledge. That knowledge are of three categories. One is about Karma Kanda, means those sections of Vedas which are specifically talking about performing different rituals to satisfy one's desires, material desires. So they are all Karma Kanda sections. And next is Jnana Kanda. Jnana Kanda basically means it talks mainly about impersonal Brahman. And then we have Bhakti Kanda. And Bhakti Kanda talks mainly about devotional service and bhakti. So these are the three divisions of Vedas. But here, when we are talking about Vedas, we are only talking in this, at least in this Bhagavatam verse, it is only referring to Karma Kanda section. Again, keep in mind that it is not that Vedas only have Karma Kanda, it has three categories, but in this context, we are only talking about Karma Kanda section. And in this context, when you are referring Dharma, we are referring to material Dharma. And in this context, when we are saying Karma, we are referring to performing activities to satisfy those material desires. That is why the word karma and dharma are used interchangeably. Okay. So the Vedas deal with three gunas, Traigunya Vishaya Veda, karma or dharma becomes accompanied by consciously following the Vedas. Unlike bhakti, they may be performed unknowingly. Okay, what do you mean by unlike bhakti that may be performed unknowingly? Sarani Mataji, can you explain how do you understand this statement? Vedas deal with three gunas, Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Karma or dharma becomes accompanied by consciously following the Vedas. Unlike bhakti, that can be performed unknowingly.
No, I don't know, Prabhu.
Okay, anyone else like to give it a try? What does it mean? See, these are all very complicated sentences, right? I'm trying to simplify, but you also try to understand what it's not that difficult. Again, once I explain, it becomes very, very easy. But when you read it for the first time, it looks very complicated. If you understood the Sangha Siddha Bhakti, Arup Siddha Bhakti perfectly, you'll easily understand what this line means. Okay, so let's go back in the previous class. How did we define um, Arup Siddha Bhakti? Arup Siddha Bhakti, for any activity to become devotional, you have to consciously offer that activity in your mind to the Lord. Yes or no? Without that, it cannot be called bhakti. Means you have to voluntarily and knowingly, consciously, remember the Lord and offer that activity to the Lord. Then only it will become devotional. Otherwise, it is just any other material activity, right? Of course, I'm not talking about chanting, hearing, not those core bhakti practices. Those core bhakti practices, even though you perform unknowingly also, you will still have a potent. But I'm not talking about them. I'm only talking about mundane activities. Mundane activities, unless you consciously offer those activities to the Lord, they won't become devotional. But coming back to the karma or dharma, even though you do it unknowingly or unconsciously, you will still have an effect. Suppose when you're walking, and let's say that you step on a ant or any insect, then you will face karma. You may not see it, you may not know it, but that doesn't matter. That karma will follow you. But that is why. Let's read this line again. Karma or dharma becomes accompanied by consciously following Vedas, unlike bhakti that may be performed unknowingly. Okay, you know what? Whatever I told you, I'll just take it back. It's actually exactly opposite. Because unlike bhakti, that may be performed unknowingly. Okay, so actually, here when it is said bhakti that may be performed unknowingly, that is actually referring to Swarup Siddha Bhakti. Because Swarup Siddha Bhakti, I gave an example, right? Let's say that a person unknowingly fasts on Ekadashi, even though he may not be a devotee, even though he doesn't know that that day is an Ekadashi, but because he fasted on that day, he will still get the benefit. There are many stories in this regard. In the Puranas, it is mentioned. Like I remember one story where in India, when you do a marriage, before marriage, actually, they have both the bride and bridegroom, they don't eat, they fast. Only after the ceremony they eat. So unfortunately, what happened is that this bridegroom, he was fasting, but he was sitting on a horse. It's like a procession, right? I mean, they go from one place to another place, from the bridegroom's house to the venue, the marriage location. So on the way, what happened is that this horse, it got frightened by seeing so many people, and the horse basically it ran away, and it kind of toppled that person sitting on the horse, the bridegroom, and unfortunately, this bridegroom fell over a stone, and he hit his head on a stone, and he died on the spot. But however, actually he got liberation. He was liberated. And the reason why he was liberated is because it happened that day was an Ekadashi and this person was fasting. He did it unknowingly, but does not matter. So those acts of bhakti, which are, Swarup Siddha Bhakti acts, like, which are core bhakti in itself, even though they are performed unknowingly, they will still have an effect. But dharma or karma, what happens is that, you have to perform it cautiously, consciously. You cannot just unconsciously do whatever and then expect some result. No. Because let's say that, you perform those activities which are not prescribed in Vedas, then you will face, sinful reaction. But if you follow properly, then you will get pious results. So you have to be very careful when following the Vedic injunctions. So that is what it means. Karma or dharma becomes accompanied by consciously following the Vedas. Unlike bhakti, that may be performed unknowingly. Okay, is it clear? Let's move on. Karma is also defined in Gita. Actions directed towards devatas, which create desires of living entities, are called as karma. Okay. Actions directed towards devatas, which creates desires. You see, means what happens is that, see, previously when we said karma means dharma means we are referring to actions, specifically those actions which are meant for satisfying one's material desires. But those actions, now, when you perform, actually, when you perform those activities, it will create more desires to perform more activities, right? It's like, when you win a lottery, then you want to buy more lottery tickets so that you think that you'll get more money, right? It is creating unnecessary desires. So that is why, and that creation of desires is also called as karma, because that is actually giving the definition of karma by its quality, because karma actually creates more desires. Once you perform one's karma, it creates more desires to perform more karma. Visarga means giving up objects and offering them to devatas. That is representative of all dharmas. This creates desire for living entities, living beings. This definition excludes bhakti. Okay. See, what happens is that Visarga means giving up objects and offering them to devatas. That is representation of all dharmas. This creates desires for living entities. This definition excludes bhakti. Okay, so this sounds a little bit, confusing. Previously, we discussed that when we perform, these activities, actually material activities, and that creates more desires. Then why is it said here that Visarga means giving up objects and offering them to devatas? See, whenever you perform any sacrifice, see, the word itself says sacrifice, isn't it? I mean, even though those are, those are meant for satisfying some material desires, but it is called as yajna, or it is called as, sacrifice. But that sounds a little bit, you know, opposite to each other, right? So it is very simple. Yeah, I mean, it is sacrifice, because when you want to perform a sacrifice, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice your time. You have to sacrifice your, energy. You have to sacrifice your, ingredients, because you need to purchase so many ingredients to perform a fire sacrifice. That is all sacrifice only. So, but that is actually not the real sacrifice, because even though a person may be apparently performing a sacrifice on the surface level, but deep inside his heart, actually he's having desire. Just like, for example, people feed poor people, right? Charitable activities. And to feed a person, to do annadan, free distribution of food, it requires so much money, and you're not getting anything back. Whatever you're doing, the money is being spent in performing that activity. Then how is it that you're getting anything? So that looks like visarga, and this person is actually getting, good name and fame. No, that is all right. On surface level, it looks like the person is actually sacrificing things, but that person is not bereft of, the result. He will get his designated karma in the form of piety. So that piety is actually his credit. Understood, right? So that is what it means. Visarga means giving up objects and offering them to devatas. That is representation of all dharma. Dharma means, again, the Vedas encourage all those things. The Vedas actually encourage performing charitable activities. This creates a desire for living beings because, and it also encourages, right? Because, well, let's say one person is performing annadhanam, or some sacrifice, it encourages others also. It inspires others also to follow such, charitable activities, and that is a goal, and that is a spirit, and that is what even Vedas want to encourage, because Vedas, they want everybody to live in a pious way. They don't want any person living in a sinful way. But these definitions actually has nothing to do with bhakti. This definition excludes bhakti. And now let's go on. See, let's try to understand why is Jiva Goswami discussing all those things. See, Jiva Goswami is systematically building a foundation on trying to discuss what is Uttama Bhakti. Because before discussing the Uttama Bhakti, you have to discuss what is not Uttama Bhakti. And before even discussing what is not Uttama Bhakti, what you have to discuss what is material, because still Uttama Bhakti or lower Bhakti, it is still Bhakti. So here we are discussing something which has nothing to do with Bhakti. And like this, we will systematically build up to defining what is pure devotional service. Okay. Dharma becomes excellent by associating with Bhakti. So now we discussed Dharma purely in terms of three modes of nature. Now we are trying to discuss Dharma, the highest form of Dharma, Paradharma and Aparadharma, lower Dharma and higher Dharma. We discussed only now what is lower Dharma. Now we will discuss what is higher Dharma. And the opening sentence here is Dharma becomes excellent by its association with Bhakti. That itself is self-explanatory. Dharma means something that produces Bhakti. Real Jnana is seeing Paramatma everywhere. Real Vairagya is complete disinterest in sense objects. Real Aishwarya is acquisition of the Siddhis. Okay, so here Bhagavatam is now discussing about what should be the highest form of dharma, and what is the highest form of knowledge, and what is the highest form of renunciation. Dharma, Jnana, Vairagya, and Aishwarya, and the highest form of Aishwarya. See, what happens is that in a general society, in a Vedic society, there are some general goals, and they are called as, what do we call it? I'm trying to find that, remember the technical name for that. Purusharthas. Purusharthas. Does anyone know what are the Purusharthas?
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
Exactly. Just give me a second. I'm sorry for that. So yes. So the general goal is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. What is Dharma? Dharma basically means, as we discussed it previously, following the Vedic injunctions. That is just like one basic definition of Dharma. I mean, that is how people understand Dharma, right? For example, in the Vedas, it is mentioned that one has to perform, charitable activities. And that is what people think. People, when they perform charitable activities, they think that they're following Dharma. So that is how people generally understand what is Dharma. And Artha. Artha means money. So by performing Dharma, one will, get some wealth. And wealth is also one of the goal in the society. And Kama. So Kama means desires. So, just like we previously discussed, when you get something, you want it more, right? You don't stop it there, right? You want it more. So that creates Kama, means desire. And Moksha. Moksha means liberation. So because these are all material activities, he will never get fully satisfied. At the end of his life, he will get frustrated with everything, and now he wants moksha. So these are all general goals of society. So, but now Bhagavatam, what it does is that it takes these four Purusharthas to its highest perfection. And that highest perfection is defined here. So, Dharma means something that produces bhakti. See, generally, if you understand, people, Dharma means, what do they think? Dharma basically means they think that Dharma means that produces Artha. right? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But here, no, Bhagavatam says, no, dharma, the goal of dharma is not to produce artha, but the goal of dharma is actually to produce bhakti. And next is jnana, knowledge. See, knowledge also. See, we can talk about material knowledge, right? So material knowledge means, but first of all, these children, they go to school, right? In the school, what do they learn? They learn alphabets, they learn social studies, they learn biology, they learn physics. These are all knowledge only, right? That is not, it doesn't mean that it is not knowledge. And that knowledge is required for one to perform, for one to, to settle down into a specific profession. That is required. That is also knowledge only. But that is not the real knowledge. That is just a material knowledge or a lower form of knowledge. But then what is real knowledge? Real knowledge is seeing Paramatma everywhere. That is real knowledge. And real Vairagya is complete disinterest in sense objects. So previously also we discussed in Dharma, the Kama Moksha, Vairagya, what happens is that, see, people in general, they get frustrated after some time and they give up that activity for some time and they go on a vacation. Just like, Prabhupada gives the example of Sunday. People work from Monday to Saturday, and on Sunday they will renounce everything. And on Sunday they go on a vacation. And again, on Monday they again they start what they renounced. So, right? So that is actually not real renunciation. That is just a frustration. Or, it is just a, there is a specific word, I'm trying to forget.
Bhogatyaga.
Yeah, Bhogatyaga. Yeah. So Bhogatyaga, that Tyaga is not real Tyaga. Because the Tyaga is not, the desire did not die. The desire is still there, but the person is a little bit exhausted. So when that exhaustion is gone, again the person he will again start running. So that is not real Vairagya. The real Vairagya means complete disinterest in sense objects. Means no more coming back. No more again interest in sense objects. That is real Vairagya. And real Aishwarya is acquisition of Siddhis. Yeah, means, Aishwarya. What is Aishwarya? Means wealth, right? Aishwarya, everybody wants some wealth. And the real wealth is acquisition of Siddhis. Again, Siddhis, generally the word Siddhis is understood in the context of Ashtanga Yoga as some kind of mystic Siddhis. But that is not again, that's not the only definition of Siddhi. That is just how we generally use this word Siddhi. But Siddhi can also imply Bhakti also, because Bhakti is also a Siddhi. Just give me a second.
I have a question.
Yeah, yes, Mataji.
Yeah, so this last line, real Aishwarya is acquisition of the Siddhis, you mentioned that it could also mean bhakti, but then that Srimad Bhagavatam verse, if you go and check it out, there Prabhupada actually mentions about the eightfold mystic opulences in his translation, also purport. So I'm really not understanding why this line is mentioned in this bhakti part.
Okay, why don't we go into that? See, the
Yeah.
problem, see, even though Jiva Goswami is referring to these verses and
Mm-hmm.
trying to fit these verses into the context of what he's referring, what he's discussing here, but
Mm-hmm.
that context may not exactly over align 100%. Because see, when Bhagavatam is talking about these words, they have their own context in Bhagavatam.
Mm.
Jiva Goswami is talking here, Jiva Goswami having his own context. And when there is a majority of the overlap, then so he will quote that verse. But sometimes it may not be possible that words will fit 100% in that context. So why don't we do one thing and let's go to the exact 11th canto and see where is this verse quoted and what is the context of this verse, okay? Let's
Yeah.
open the Veda base. Okay, yeah, so you can see my screen, right? Vindhyavali?
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay. So from what I see here,
Mm-hmm.
see, if you look at the context now, this is basically
Mm-hmm.
conversation between Uddhava and Krishna, okay?
Right.
And here you can see the 19th verse. Now I will explain the supreme process of achieving love and service unto me. So this is actually a conversation between Uddhava and Krishna means, and it is clearly stated that here it is talking about devotional service. It is not talking about anything else, right? So the
Mm.
context is very clear. But here, um, in this verse, 27th verse, I think the last line is kind of throwing off the balance, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know why this, mystic perfection is kind of squeezed into this subject. But,
Exactly.
one thing, see, I mean, I can give you one potential answer. See, I don't want to kind of like, give my own understanding here because the
Mm.
key to understand these verses is that we have to follow the commentary of the previous acharyas.
Mm.
So, but one thing what I can uh, say in this context is that, see, 11th canto in general, if you see 11th canto, it is
Mm-hmm.
basically, um, mm, it is more like Jnana Mishra Bhakti.
Right.
When Uddhava and Krishna is talking about all that talk over there, it is mainly about Jnana Mishra Bhakti and it is primarily dealing with liberation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why if you see here, real knowledge is awareness or that reveals my all-pervading presence. See, you can why all-pervading presence means what? It is talking about Paramatma or Brahman aspect.
Right.
It's not talking about Bhagavan aspect. So in the Jnana Mishra Bhakti, what happens is that generally the discussion always remains within Paramatma feature or Brahman
Mm.
feature. And Jnana Mishra Bhakti is again very closely related to Jnana Marga or Ashtanga Marga. You see?
Correct. Yes.
And so in that context, when he's talking about all pervading presence, Paramatma feature and Brahman feature, so the mystic perfection kind of fits into that category in that context. I mean, it is not like completely out of context
Mm-hmm.
because here it is talking mainly about Paramatma feature. Because who meditates on Paramatma? Is it a Jnana Yoga? Is it Bhakti Yogi or is it Ashtanga Yogi? Ashtanga
Yeah.
Yogi, right? It's not a Bhakti.
Right.
Bhakti Yogi perfects his mind on Bhagavan, not on Paramatma. So that is why whenever 11th canto is being referred, it
Mm-hmm.
always refers to some kind of Jnana Mishra Bhakti. But and whenever 7th canto is referred, which
Mm-hmm.
basically talks about Prahlad Maharaj, hmm, which actually
Mm.
Prabhupada actually he quotes 7th canto more than any other canto. So in the
Okay.
7th canto, whenever is referred, it always refers to the pure devotional service because that is Prahlad Maharaj.
Right. Okay. I mean, I get the general idea.
Mhm.
I just wasn't sure how this fit into like how what we were studying. If you go to
Yeah.
the your,
So
right.
now we understood this context in Bhagavatam, right? So now let's go
Yes.
into this context. So okay, let's go back and see why is this even verse referred here? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So okay, this verse is referred when this verse is referred when Jiva Goswami is talking about how dharma becomes excellent by association with bhakti. So that is the context.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, we discussed about material dharma, and now we are discussing about spiritual dharma. And in the opening sentence, Jiva Goswami is trying to discuss how dharma becomes excellent by associating with bhakti, and he's referring this verse. So, yeah, I mean, actually, this verse may not be like a highest, form. May not be referring to the highest form of devotional service, but that's all right. The reason is because we are also discussing Sangha Siddha Bhakti. We are not discussing about Sarup Siddha Bhakti, you see.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So in that context, I think it is still kind of all right to, kind of fit in this category, because the intention behind referring this verse is very simple. Basically, Jiva Goswami wants to show that, that dharma, artha, and kama moksha are having little bit higher purposes, not just some material purposes. It has some higher purposes.
Right.
That's it. I mean, that's the only intention behind referring this verse.
Okay. Could this also be a prelude to like Sakama Bhakti? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. So
Yeah.
that is
Right.
coming up, because
Right.
see, we are still in Sangha Siddha Bhakti, where it is mixed bhakti. It is not pure bhakti.
Right.
So, and again, if you from the starting, we see
Mm.
a very heavy emphasis on something which is prescribed. See, Arab Siddha Bhakti was very general.
Mm-hmm.
Siddha Bhakti was like very, very general, and it was even okay, even for sinful activities, to be doubted in bhakti. You see,
Sure. Sure.
but Sangha Siddha Bhakti from the beginning itself, it is kind of sticking on to the Vedic principles.
Mm.
It is not being very open and very generous. It is trying to restrict itself to specific path. Yes,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, these things may not be explicitly explained or discussed in the verse, but we
Mm-hmm.
have to try to understand the mood and
Right.
the spirit of the author.
Yep. Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's continue. Dharma is called bhakti by offering results to the Lord, Arop Siddha Bhakti, and using it as an assistant to bhakti, Sangha Siddha Bhakti. So this one line, summarizes the difference between Arop and Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Dharma is called bhakti by offering results to Lord and using it as an assistant to bhakti, Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Okay. Anyone like to, Vindhyavali, you like to try it? What this line means? If you understand this one line, if you just understand this one line, you will understand what is the difference between Arop Siddha Bhakti and Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Just give it a try.
Okay, I'll try. Dharma is called bhakti by offering results to the Lord. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. I mean, like you're saying, even sinful actions, even though not recommended, but still offered to the Lord, using it as an assistant to bhakti. I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay, let me tell you. Let me explain this sentence. Just
Mm-hmm.
be very careful. Try to understand it very carefully. Now let's go back to the example of Arab Siddha Bhakti. Okay, so I have given the example of Prabhupada, telling to his disciple that okay, you're not able to give up intoxication. You're still taking intoxicants. That's all right. What you do is that whenever you're taking intoxicant, that is a liquid. It's a liquid. It's a water. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the water. I am the taste of water. So in this way, whenever you drink alcohol, try to remember this so that you see what is the purpose. The purpose is very simple, that you are remembering Krishna. The one somewhere or the other, you are remembering Krishna. But now let's say this disciple will say, Prabhupada, if I am remembering Krishna by remembering alcohol, let me drink alcohol throughout my life and so that I'll never forget Krishna. Morning, afternoon, evening, night, I'll drink 4 times. So that 4 times I'll remember Krishna. How do you say that? No, that is not correct. See, that is not the intention behind that recommendation. The intention behind that recommendation is that you remember Krishna. But that activity itself cannot be used to develop bhakti. You understood? So that
So
drinking
here,
alcohol cannot be assistant to bhakti.
That second statement, using as a propeller for bhakti. So
Correct.
eventually you'll really get into bhakti.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
Arop Siddha Bhakti, not all activities offered in Arop Siddha Bhakti can be used as an assistant to bhakti. For example, let me tell you an example. can Balaganesh Prabhu, Balanitai Prabhu, I mean, so can you
Yes.
tell me, can you give me some examples of assistants of bhakti? We discussed in yesterday's Bhakti Shastri class. There are two assistants of bhakti. What are they?
Assistance of bhakti.
I'll tell you the first one, you tell me the second one. The first one is renunciation. What is the second one?
First one is renunciation.
And what is the second one?
I don't know if it's penance.
Yeah. So the second one is jnana.
Yeah.
Jnana and Vairagya. See,
Yeah.
Jnana and Vairagya, no, actually they are not limbs of bhakti.
Yeah.
But they can act as an assistance to bhakti. You see that?
Right. Yeah.
See, that is a difference. Sangha Siddha Bhakti, Arop Siddha Bhakti. Arop Siddha Bhakti, yeah, you throw any junk in that and then, just offer it to, use it as an, this thing to invoke remembrance of Krishna. But those activities itself, because they are not pure, they cannot be act as an assistance of bhakti. But in Sangha Siddha Bhakti, those activities can assist bhakti. Cleanliness, austerity, penance, good behavior, respecting elders. You see, these are all good qualities. And these are all can be bhakti when you use it towards devotees. And these good qualities will actually help you to progress in bhakti, even though that is not bhakti itself. That is what it means. Dharma is called bhakti by offering results to the Lord. So, Arab Siddha Bhakti, offering is the main focus. The main focus is offering.
Yeah.
But and using it as an assistant to bhakti is called as Sangha Siddha Bhakti. In Sangha Siddha Bhakti, the main focus is whether I can use this quality in improving my bhakti. That is the main focus. Vindhyavali, understood?
Yes, understood. So you're saying it until you get to that high level, use this as a crutch to get to Sangha
Correct. These
Siddha
are like
Bhakti.
boosters.
Yeah.
These are like assistants.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So that is why from the beginning now, Jiva Goswami is very strict in what when discussing about Sangha Siddha Bhakti. He was only talking about Vedas, Dharma, all those things. Okay. So this is the difference between Arop and Sangha Siddha Bhakti because both looks very, very similar, but they're not similar. There is a very fine difference, and this is a fine difference. Okay, let's continue. By mixing such actions with bhakti, Sakama Bhakti results. Okay, so this is where it kicks in, Sakama Bhakti, because we are only just talking about pious activities. Oh dear Vidura, when Brahma said to Kardama, produce progeny, Kardama went to the bank of Saraswati river and performed penance for thousands of years. So you see, here the example here given is Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni, because he had a desire, at the same time he's also, a very elevated devotee, but he is having some desire. So Brahma used him in the service of creation, of producing progeny. And the producing progeny is not a sinful activity, it is a dharmic activity. And Lord Brahma used Kardama for doing that. So that is why, see, whenever we talk about Sakama Bhakti Yoga, the number one example everywhere you will find is actually Kardama Muni. But again, keep in mind, Kardama Muni, even though he is referred in the category of Sakama Bhakti Yogi, but actually he's not a Sakama Bhakti Yogi. He is a pure devotee. He's not a mixed devotee. But just to kind of give an example for common people to understand, that is why a lot of times Kardama Muni's example is given. But just keep in mind that he's not a Sakama Bhakti Yogi, even though he's put in that category. Then through his austerities using methods of worship with concentrated mind, Kardama with devotion worshipped the Supreme Lord, giver of benedictions to the surrendered. When he saw the Lord, he developed Nishkama Bhakti, indicated by his tears. He had desire in his bhakti. He had desire in his bhakti because of his respect for the order of Brahma. So here it talks about Kardamuni. The Kardamuni, he had a desire, but that desire is not sinful, and that desire is something which is very good, and that desire actually helped him to see the Lord. You see that? Because see, how did Kardama see the Lord? Because he performed austerity. Why did he perform austerity? Because he had a desire. See, you see that? That means that it is our Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Because even though he had a desire and even though he was performing austerities, but because it is mixed with Bhakti, and that same thing used as an assistant to Bhakti, and that led towards his perfection. And after becoming perfect, he became Nishkama Bhakti Yogi. Nishkama. So this is why it is not condemned. Sakama is not condemned. Sakama is not condemned. Why? The reason is because, but through Sakama, it can be used as an assistant to Bhakti, which will lead to the perfection, and the person becomes Nishkama. So that is Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Okay, before moving on to the next verse, any questions or comments here? Is it clear what I'm talking? Okay. Okay, let me ask a question here. Anyone else? I mean, can anyone of you give any other example of any devotee? Either it could be from Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, or from your own personal experience. Because see, whenever I'm talking all these things, no, I'm sure somebody may be coming into your mind, right? Does anyone like to share any of such examples?
I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dhruva Maharaj,
Okay.
he had the desire for a kingdom larger than his father and Brahma, but then when he saw the Lord, he felt like broken glasses, right? His pieces of glass. So
Right. So Dhruva Maharaj, what happened? He had a desire to begin with. So, but when he had a desire, his mother, told him to worship Narayan. So there is bhakti there. But that bhakti is not for liberation or some bhakti. That is for some material gain only. But there is some bhakti. And at the same time, Dhruva Maharaj, what he has followed is completely authorized. He's not doing something which is unauthorized. He's doing something which is authorized in the Vedas, like all the various rituals or whatever procedures he might have followed. They're all authorized and bona fide procedures, and those acted as a assistants of bhakti for him in seeing Bhagwan, and that led to his perfection. So Dhruva Maharaj is one perfect example for Sanghasita Bhakti. Any other example? Anybody else? Anyone likes to give an example from your personal life? Anyone whom you know, or maybe what I mean, maybe you yourself could be, Nobody could think of any other example.
I think if I think about myself, Prabhuji, I came to ISKCON as Sangsiga. I wanted to gain something, and finally I got the taste of pure bhakti, and then I got initiated.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So now let's move on to the next verse. Vendevari, are you in a position to read? Okay.
yes,
Go ahead.
text 226. The desire for liberation is sometimes karma jnana mishra bhakti and sometimes jnana mishra bhakti. Jnanam chaikatmya darshanam. Jnanam means seeing oneness. Since Vairagya, Yoga, and Sankhya, as well as hearing about Jnana, are its angas, they are included in Jnana. Now, Karma Jnana Mishra Bhakti is illustrated. By energetic bhakti to me for a long time, without desire for results, which purifies the heart and is performed according to one's occupational duties, by knowledge with realization of the elements, by strong renunciation, by yoga accompanied by austerities, by intense concentration on the Lord, by subtle body of the jiva. The subtle body of the jiva burns continually and gradually disappears, like the kindling stick is consumed by fire. Animita nimitena means nishkama. This is the karma element. Amalatmana means with pure mind. Jnanena means with knowledge gained from scriptures. Yoga means meditation on Jiva and Paramatma. These are Jnana elements. Nanartha Varga says that yoga means dhyana. When the meditation reaches the point of no distinction between the meditator and the object of meditation, it is called samadhi. Actually, bhakti is the angi, the source of all methods. Devotional service to his lotus feet is the root cause of all the perfections a person can find in heaven, in liberation, in the subterranean regions, and on earth. In the previous verse, bhakti is treated as an anga, as one among various sadhanas from the point of view of followers of other processes. The result of these sadhanas is just liberation. Kapila speaks.
Okay. Okay, so here now looks like here we are talking about permutations and combinations, like you have jnana, karma, jnana mishra bhakti, karma mishra bhakti, jnana karma mishra bhakti. So we can keep on playing around these words. So, but see, first of all, if you understand what is jnana and what is karma and what is mishra and what is bhakti, if you understand these four words separately, then you can do whatever permutation and combination, and then you can still make sense out of it. So before we kind of discuss all these things, let's try to go back, take a step back, and try to redefine again, once again, what is karma, what is jnana. Okay, because they have a specific meaning in this context. Because in the previous context also we have seen two definitions of karma in the in the previous verse, and again in the before classes also I gave one more explanation of karma, right? So now let's try to understand what is the definition of karma in this context. Whenever you're talking about karma mishra bhakti, jnana mishra bhakti, what does it mean? So in this context, in this context, when we're discussing about mixed bhakti and when we use karma, so in this context, the karma basically means desire for some material desires. Simple definition. Let's just leave it simply like that. Karma means material desires. That's what karma means here. Okay. And jnana. So this karma is a little bit easy to understand, but jnana is sometimes it is a little bit difficult to understand. So what is jnana? See, sometimes it is confusing. Is jnana means knowledge, no? Means so why is jnana is knowledge is considered as something which is mixed or something which is like as if of some kind of a contamination or something like that, right? Why is it like that? So let me tell you, whenever we refer jnana, majority of the times or most of the times, jnana basically refers to the knowledge of impersonal Brahman. That is what jnana, most of the times, majority of the times, jnana, that is what is referred to. Knowledge of impersonal Brahman. So knowledge of impersonal Brahman is, again, knowledge of impersonal Brahman is not condemned, because that is, Brahman is also a part of Bhagavan, right? It is one of the three features of Bhagavan. But what happens is that the knowledge of Brahman, if a person is having a person's knowledge is dominated by the impersonal Brahman, that person will never become a devotee. He will become an impersonalist. So even though Brahman knowledge is a part of the knowledge, but person following the path of Bhakti Yoga, for him, the knowledge should be predominantly about Bhagavan. That should be dominating factor. But if the knowledge of Brahman is more dominating, then that is actually considered as some kind of a mixed bhakti, and it's like some jnana marga. Or sometimes even Prabhupada uses the word called mental speculation. Because what happens is that a lot of these jnana yogis, they are too much into mental speculation, which bhakti yogis are not into. So that is what jnana means. Jnana, I mean, if you ask Prabhupada what is jnana means, Prabhupada will tell jnana means mental speculation. But if you want to understand a little bit more, jnana also means basically knowledge of impersonal Brahman. That is also jnana means. Okay. So now let's see what is karma jnana mishra bhakti, and sometimes called as jnana mishra bhakti. And see, it is referred here. Jnana means seeing oneness. You see that thing? That is jnana, definition of jnana, because that is what impersonalists will do. Jnana yogis, or they all see one. It's like everything is Brahman, everything is one. They see all oneness. So that kind of knowledge, or knowledge only related to impersonal Brahman, that is called as jnana. And since Vairagya and Yoga and Sankhya, as well as hearing about Jnana and its Anga, they are included in Jnana. Vairagya, Yoga, and Sankhya. So, as well as hearing about Jnana or its Angas, they are included in Jnana. So here it is trying to classify what are the different Angas of Jnana. Because see, if you see any Jnana yogi, or like any Ashtanga yogi, they all very much into renunciation. They are all very much into understanding Sankhya principles, trying to analytically understand the universe, and they're all into performing Ashtanga yoga. Actually, they're all like kind of like, even though they're different, they're all like kind of in the same basket. I mean, they're all together. They all go together like that. So Vairagya, Yoga, Sankhya, seeing oneness, impersonal Brahman, they're all same category. Okay, so now Bhagavatam verse is referred, trying to define what is Karma Jnana Mishra Bhakti. So I think 327 is actually Kardamuni's pastimes, I think. I think it is, yeah, it is correct. It is Kardamuni's pastimes. I think 27 chapter, I think we are already into Lord Kapila's instructions, I think. By energetic bhakti to me for a long time without desire for results, which purifies the heart and is performed according to one's occupational duties by knowledge, with the realization of elements, by strong renunciation, by yoga accompanied by austerities, by intense concentration of mind, concentration on Lord, by the subtle body of Jiva becomes continually, gradually disappears like the kindling stick is consumed by fire. So here you can clearly see that this is basically an Ashtanga Yoga process. And in the Ashtanga Yoga process, there is also Bhakti, right? So there are like everything in one place here, right? I mean, so here it says, Animitta Nimittena means Nishkama, means which is karma element. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. So Nimittena means Nishkama. This is the karma element. See, Nishkama is also a karma element. You see, a desire. See, people think that not performing any activity is actually, or performing an activity is actually karma. No, actually, not performing an activity is also karma. How is that? The reason is because Nishkama basically also means that you don't want to. Means again, you have some reason not to perform an activity. So again, that is still some material, something which is material. So even Nishkama is also in this context actually is coming under a karma element. Just like a karmi who got frustrated doesn't want to do anything, he just wants to sleep, right? I mean, now does it mean that he became a devotee? He became a pure devotee? No, he's not like that. He's still a materialistic person only. So that nishkama is also a karma element. Amalatma means Amalatmana means with pure mind. Jnanena means with knowledge gained from scriptures. Yogana means meditation on Jiva and Paramatma. So these are all jnana elements. So jnana elements means, in this specific context, knowledge gained from scriptures. So scriptures again, here specifically scriptures are referred to Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Bhakti Kanda, right? So here it is referred to Jnana Kanda. And can anyone give any examples of scriptures from Jnana Kanda? Some examples are Upanishads. Upanishads actually comes under the category of Jnana Kanda. Because if you read any Upanishad, most of the times Upanishads main focus is on impersonal Brahman. It tries to explain Brahman aspect. So Upanishads comes under the Jnana Khanda section of the Vedas. And yoga means meditation on Jiva and Paramatma. Again, this is Ashtanga Yoga. When meditation reaches to the point of no distinction between meditator and the object of meditation, it is called as Samadhi. Again, this is Ashtanga Yoga process. So here we can see there is bhakti. Why there is bhakti? Because the focus is on the Lord, Paramatma. So there is bhakti. And there is Nishkama. I mean, so that there is karma element. And there is yoga elements. So there are different elements in one place. So that is why this is actually karma, jnana, mishra, bhakti. Doing devotional service with elements of karma and with elements of jnana. Actually, bhakti is the angi and the source of all methods. So see, so there are two ways we can consider. See, there's a body, and body has parts, right? And the parts, these individual parts will make the whole body, right? So similarly, we must understand, for this person, is bhakti predominating, or is bhakti used as one of the limbs of, or as just one of the factors for achieving something else? See here, if you look at the example here now, this Bhagavatam verse, see, the goal is liberation. That is a goal. Goal is not bhakti. Goal is liberation. But bhakti is used as a instrument, or something, as a something which is helping the person. Understood? But that is not correct. But actually bhakti itself can be angi, source of all methods. In the previous verse, bhakti is treated as an anga, means a limb. See, bhakti can be anga or angi. What is angi? What is anga? Anga means part. Anga means like hands, legs. These are all like limbs of body. So in the previous verse, bhakti is treated as an anga. Means bhakti is not predominated. Bhakti is used as something which is helping the person to achieve something else. Okay. But that doesn't have to be like that. Bhakti can also be angi, means bhakti can be predominating element, and others can be like an assisting things like jnana and vairagya can be assisting. Devotional service to his lotus feet is the root cause of all perfections. A person can find in heaven, in liberation, in subterranean elements on earth. In the previous verse, bhakti is treated as an anga, as one of the various sadhanas from the point of view of the followers of other processes. The results of this sadhana is just liberation. See, that is what I told, right? So the goal over there is liberation, and bhakti is just an anga. That is how it is treated. And that is why this is called as jnana, karma, mishra, bhakti. Anyway, I think it is just too technical and too complicated what we discussed today. I will just stop.
Prabhuji, I got a little bit disturbance. When you said angi, what is the understanding on angi?
Okay, so let me go back. You see here this line. Actually, bhakti is the angi, the source of all methods. Okay, remember this line. And let's go to the next page. In the previous verse, bhakti is treated as an anga. Okay. So it can be both ways. Bhakti can be seen as an anga, or bhakti can be seen as an angi. So before discussing, let's discuss what is anga and what is angi. Okay. Angi means body. Okay. The full self. Anga means part of the body. Okay. So depending on the context, or depending on the person who is following a specific path, he can use bhakti in both ways. He can either use bhakti, as a predominating element or as a assisting element. He can use in both ways. That is what it means. Because see, for example, let me give you two examples. Let's say that there is a materialistic person, and let's say that he goes to temple and he prays to he let's say he goes to some Krishna temple and he prays to the Lord that he wants some desire. There is a material desire and he is praying. Okay. So for that person, what is the main thing? What is predominating? Is karma dominating or bhakti dominating? Balaram Prabhu, tell me.
Karma dominating.
Karma is dominating. And
Yeah.
but bhakti is there or not? Is bhakti is there?
Yes,
It's
there
there.
is a secondary fact.
But it is secondary, right? So is bhakti over there is anga or angi?
Bhakti is anga.
Anga. It's a part.
For him.
It is not
Yeah,
full.
for him.
It is not
Yeah.
full. Let's say a person is having a hand. Even if you cut off the person's hand, he'll still be alive only. He'll not die.
Yeah.
Because it is just a part of the body. So that is why this person, let's say that you cut off bhakti from him, or he loses faith on Krishna, then but does it mean that his desire will die? No, his desire will not die. He'll go somewhere else to satisfy
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
desire,
Yeah.
right? So that is what their bhakti used as anga. And now let me give one more example. Now let's say I'll give an example of a devotee. There is a devotee. He's initiated and he's chanting 16 rounds. He's very very nicely following some all the rules and regulations. But let's say that he's having some material distress. Let's say that he's having some financial problem. And let's say that this person also goes to Krishna temple and prays to Krishna that Krishna, I'm little bit in financial difficulty. Please give me some wealth, material wealth. So for this person, is karma predominating or bhakti predominating?
Bhakti predominating.
Bhakti predominating. Let's say that even after praying, Krishna does not give his desire. Now whether this person, what will he do? Whether will he give up devotion service?
No, you'll go deep into it.
Yeah, he will go deep. You see?
Yeah.
So over there is bhakti anga or bhakti angi?
Bhakti is angi for him.
Angi. So that is what it means.
I see. So no matter what, he just stay in his lane, but he asks for a benefit. And again, if you don't get it, but also there is a blessing of Lord, he thinks,
Correct, exactly.
because God wanted him to go deep into bhakti.
Yeah, so he will have some understanding where he will still continue, but he will not deviate.
I see.
Understood?
Yeah.
So, okay. And anyway, so these are all very deep subjects. Anyway, if no one has any questions, I will just end the class here for today. It's just too much disturbance going on around here.
I think you are going to another topic, and I got this question for you, I guess.
Yeah. No, nothing like that. It's a part of this topic anyway. Okay, thank you
I
all
think-
for coming. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I think this part you said where bhakti is the angi, and the previous verse was bhakti was the anga. I think that answers the question about that renunciation. I mean, opulence of the 8 siddhis.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of answers that.
Yeah, true. That is true. Yeah.
That makes sense because the previous verse was saying bhakti is the anga. So then obviously then you would bring the opulences in.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you all for coming for today's class. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.